On the speaker. Hello and welcome to Card Kingdom's Rags and the Riches 3, The Last Crusade.
It's not The Last Crusade.
But not really.
Well.
We got Pauper for you. I'm your host, Josh Monks, joined in the booth by the Casey Hogan. Casey, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited. It's been a long time since we had some Pauper on camera.
It has been.
Too long since we've been in the booth together.
Yeah, that's true. Match made in heaven right there. So we have 7 rounds of Pauper coming at you guys live, including a cut top 8 and then 3 rounds of the top 8 single elimination rounds after that. We did cap, I believe that's 72 people, is that right?
We had 72 people and we were turning people away.
It's really too bad, but this is the 3rd consecutive time we've capped, and that's really saying something about this format.
Yeah, without any problem at all. The tournament's selling out easily a week ahead of time. And still, despite that, a dozen people lined up at the start of the day to get into this tournament. It's very difficult to find actual Pauper in real life here in Seattle, and I imagine across the whole world.
Absolutely. There's not a whole lot of places to play it, and there's certainly not a whole lot of places to broadcast it. I feel like we've kind of hit the corner of that market. Not a lot of people get to see it, but we're here to bring it to you live. We're doing our best to bring it to you live. We're very active in chat, so feel free to message us in chat. We do have a spotter this time, so we will have a little bit extra control over the broadcast. We will be having some auto card functionality, which is very, very useful in this Pauper format, where there's a lot of cards that you might not know what they do.
I looked up a Pauper deck list just last night, and 3 of the cards I didn't even know, wasn't even close to knowing what they were.
That's quite funny.
Yeah.
What were the 3 cards? I'm very curious.
Skyshroud Elf, I believe.
Sean, can you move the mic?
Skyshroud Elf, that was a mystery. Let's see, what else was in that deck? It was pretty bad, but it was a combo deck featuring Grinning Angus and a way to cast it infinitely many times to do something with.
Ceaseless Seer Blades, is that the one?
That's pretty good.
Is that the one?
That's an uncommon though.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the 2/4 from Lorwyn.
Yeah, that's correct.
Gives a creature +1. It gets +1/+0 whenever you activate an ability on an elemental.
Absolutely. But we have round 1 coming to you guys live right now. So we have Carl Jans, our previous winner, playing on the right, playing the same deck he played last time, Mono Black Control, versus Sam Nelson, who I believe top 8'd the last event.
I believe he was our finalist.
Was he our finalist?
I think so.
Okay. I do not remember what he was playing.
He was playing that blue-black Delver Gurmag Angler deck that
Right,
had like
the Thought Scour Brainstorm deck.
3 million cantrips or something.
That is correct. I remember that deck. Very cool. Today he decided to bring up Mono Blue Control. So one of the big things that happened since the last Pauper event is one of the most important cards in the metagame. I would say probably the singular most important card in the metagame. Cloud of Fairies got banned.
That's right. Taken right out of the format in its prime of life. Pauper investors lost literally dollars in the secondary market.
If you were speccing on Cloud of Fairies at 25 cents, man, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, really. It's dropped, I think, a precipitous 7 cents to 17 cents.
Oof.
Truly a shame. Taken out of the format means that the element, what's it called? What was that?
Familiars.
Familiars.
Esper Familiars.
Yes, I wasn't very familiar with the deck.
Oof, good one.
Thank you. I tried very hard.
Yeah, so Esper Familiars was a very cool combo deck. It involved casting Ghostly Flicker, targeting Cloud of Fairies and Mnemonic Wall. Cloud of Fairies would untap 2 lands, Mnemonic Wall would buy back your Ghostly Flicker, and if you had enough Familiars in play, which make blue spells cost 1 less, you would actually be able to generate infinite mana that way.
That's right.
So it looks like these players are off to the races. Carl Jan started with a mulligan. On the play, he's going to go ahead and drop a swamp and pass. Looks like he's got a Kumbaj Witches. That's going to be his turn 2 play. Can you look up Kumbaj Witches?
Yeah. Sam Nelson going to follow up with, imagine a basic island here. He's got access to Force Spike, but it looks like in lieu of leaving it up for his opponent's second turn, he's going to deploy a Preordain.
Yeah, he's going to cantrip. Scry 2, go ahead and draw one of those cards. It looks like we got a Preordain, and I can't tell what that other card is.
We'll likely see it in just a moment, as Sam is placing both the cards back on top of his deck.
Looks like he's going to, double top there and get rid of them.
Passes it back to Carl Jans, where he's fully available to deploy his Quambudge Witches. Quambudge Witches, as you can see on screen here, tap to deal a damage to a target creature, and your opponent also gets to deal a damage to a target creature that they choose. With this, Sam's going to be locked out from playing creatures with 1 toughness, but don't believe that's a significant cost to his Mono Blue Control deck, where he's unlikely to deploy a creature until it's very, very big.
Yes. There is, however, a second Kumbaj Witches in Carl's hand, which means that he'll be able to start paying down 2 toughness creatures, and I would say it's slightly more likely that Sam does have 2 toughness creatures. Actually, I believe we should be getting deck lists. Sean, can you give us deck lists?
We'll have our spotter fetch us some of those. Carl enters the battle zone with his Quambudge Witches.
Looks like he's clocking for 1, yeah.
There it is. Follows the second Quambudge Witches. And now Sam Sam's decision on his first turn generates this line here,
Looks like a Piracy Charm.
Piracy Charm.
So it's going to be to discard a card. Carl's going to go ahead and pitch a Swamp. So not a huge 1-for-1. So I'm looking at Sam's deck list right now, and it looks like his only creatures are 4 Spire Golem, which is a 2/4 with Affinity, Seagate Oracle, which is a 1/3, 3 Mulldrifters, which are probably just going to be drawing cards and dying anyways,
Very likely.
and a Stormbound Geist, which is not really a guy you want to ping. So we got a second Piracy Charm happening here. I believe that's going to be discard another card.
Sam Nelson looks like he's going to try to go 1-for-1.
Carl's going to discard a Guess Verdict, which I assume is not going to have a lot of effective targets against Sam's deck.
That's right. And Sam passes back without playing a second land. Even after deploying 2 Preordains, was unable to find a third land.
Yeah, he did keep off of most of those Preordains, so he is missing things. He does have a Force Spike, though.
Right.
Force Spike of Phyrexian Rager. Get that off the table. Carl really wanted that card.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sam, instead of keeping mana up for his Force Spike on the first turn, chose to deploy that Preordain. Thought that it was going to be blanked for the rest of the game. But in this case, looks like Carl plays into it as he doesn't have a 4th land to follow up.
Absolutely. And Sam is going to cast a Sorcery Speed Think Twice, attempt to find a land, and instead of a land, finds a Preordain.
There it is.
We got another 2 damage coming in from the Kumbaj Witches. Carl could actually elect to leave these back and end step ping. Not very relevant, as I don't think that the life damage is going to matter to Carl. However, dealing 1 damage now compared to the end of turn is also not very different. We're going to see another Preordain. It's going to find a Spire Golem and a Mana Leak. I believe he's going to bottom both of those. He really needs to find another land. And those are cards he wants, but not right now.
An easy decision. Spire Golem gets easier to cast the more lands you have. Converse, more very, very difficult to cast with 2 islands.
Yes. 3 mana with 3 lands in play. 2 mana with 4 lands in play. And
the third Piracy Charm is going to
Get a
leave
Tendrils
Carl
of Corruption.
hellbent. Yeah, that didn't have the opportunity to gain a lot of life. One of the few ways to answer a 4 toughness creature. And now Carl, just with a commanding board advantage, having as many creatures as his opponent has lands.
yeah, I mean, these Kumbaj Witches are representing a 10-turn clock from 20 damage, a 7-turn clock from here.
It's true.
Looks like we're going to see a Seagate Oracle, which is going to stop the attacks here. We're going to find a Remove Soul. That's an old version of Remove Soul. I haven't seen that one in a very long time. Really like that art.
Absolutely.
Looks like he's going to keep the Remove Soul, so that's just a 2-mana counter-target creature spell. Essence Scatter is what it is now.
That's right.
I believe flavor-wise, they felt that it didn't make sense to try and cast Remove Soul on something that didn't have a soul, i.e. demons or
If I may, the creature...
Affinity, robots.
Also a good example. The 4-mana Zombie Lord from Onslaught? Soulless one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Doesn't
you-
make any sense to be able to remove that soul.
You can remove the soul of that, flavor fail. Tassim's going to deploy his 3rd Preordain at the game here. Really cycling through his deck.
Yeah, he's found the lands he wants. There's a Mulldrifter, though. I imagine he's going to keep that. Looks like he's going to double top, so he's going to be able to play that land and then hardcast a Mulldrifter next turn. Oh, we're going to see some Kumbaj Witch pings. These are going upstairs, I imagine.
There it is.
1 damage to each. And another one, 1 damage to each. And so these pings, Carl Jans is definitely ahead of the race. However, Sam does represent 4 damage.
And yet, right off the top, Grey Merchant of Asphodel.
That's a good one. So that's going to drain for 6 here. Kumbaj Witches are both double black. Grey Merchant is double black.
Carl's going to go to an astronomical 24. And now Sam is, all of a sudden, has lost 3 turns. So he's going to be able to tap out for that Mulldrifter, but what he needs to do now is find a way to deal with the Quambach Witches, get some of them off the field.
Absolutely.
We see a snap in his hand, means that he could choose to discard one of the, cast one of the snaps from his hand, bounce a Quambach Witch, should slow the clock down by a significant margin. Gets the resources back to deploy Spire Golem or play a Mulldrifter, either way.
Absolutely. I think that he might hold on to that snap. If he draws another Piracy Charm, I'd imagine that he's going to want to use that snap as a removal spell. He'd be able to snap something back to Carl's Hellbent hand and then Piracy Charm to make Carl discard.
Or he's unlikely to tap out now because we saw that he has a remove soul that he kept from his Preordain earlier.
Absolutely. So it looks like he's going to fire off a Careful Study here. He's going to draw 3 cards.
Your Compulsive Research is going to let Sam draw 3 cards and discard either 2 cards or a land.
And he's got 2 lands in hand right now. I imagine he's going to pitch one of those.
Also has like 7 cards as well.
Very true.
He
Very full.
He might
Very
be able
full.
to discard Think Twice. And we see an Exclude in his hand now. He's flush with ways to kill creatures once they enter the stack.
However, this mono blue deck does not have a lot of answers for creatures on the board already.
That's right.
And
So,
Grey Merchant of Asphodel, it does cost a lot of mana, and those are usually the targets that you want on these tempo plays like Snap. It's not really that great considering Grey Merchant is played for the comes into play effect.
exactly. Card might as well have no effect. Might as well have no power and toughness.
I mean, I hope that it doesn't have 0 power and toughness.
And Sam, in his own end step, going to cast a Snap on the Quambach Witches. Very
Get that out of the board and then going to untap 2 lands, so he's going to be able to play that Remove Soul, should he so choose.
And a guess verdict to draw here. Sam, fortunate now, he was just dead on board to the 3 damage combined. Pre-combat casting the Quambodge Witches
That's going to get counterspell. He's not going to use the remove spell on that.
means that Sam is completely tapped out here. Loses a creature to guess verdict, causing Sam to lose a life and a creature.
And then
Carl declines to attack here, which I think is questionable.
I think I attack, and then I guess pinging the Seagate Oracle now compared to pinging Face at end step are about the same. I guess it's slightly safer to ignore the creature and just go upstairs.
That's true. That's true. Okay. Now Sam...
Sam's really feeling the burn here, I think. Quambodge Witch is doing some mad damage.
That's true. Sam reordering his graveyard, completely illegal in this format, as it features cards from Urza Saga or before.
This is true. However, it doesn't feature any of the cards that have the Graveyard Matters text on them.
Deathspark's an uncommon? That's a shame.
I thought so. I actually thought it was a rare, so.
Oh, that's fair. It is a relatively complex card. Sam flashes back, I think, twice, doesn't find a bounce spell, decides to pack it up for the second game. This girl is able to tap in the end step, deal damage to Sam, and then untap and do the same.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at their sideboard here. Do you want to pull up Carl's? I'll pull up Sam's.
So, Carl has upgraded his sideboard to contain some complete disregard.
Yeah, you know, he was telling me about this earlier. I don't actually remember what that card does.
It exiles target creature with power 3 or less. It's a strictly better SWAT. Okay, strictly better.
Strictly better is very figurative there.
That's
but,
true.
yeah, I do remember the card. It's got Devoid, right?
That's right, yeah.
Very
One
cool.
of the... And here we see the Eldrazi Menace ruins yet another Eternal format.
Yeah. 3 whole sideboard slots devoted to Oath of the Gatewatch. I'm looking at Sam's sideboard. He's actually got some very powerful cards in his sideboard. He's got Stormbound Geist, which I think is the most important.
Very good against this mono black deck.
Stormbound Geist is just insane against removal spells. It lets you dodge so many things.
That's right.
So got a couple people saying that Deathspark cares about Graveyard Order, as does
That's
Miss
true.
Moongraffin.
well, that is true. The question is whether Deathspark is legal for play in this Pauper tournament.
That is correct.
As you know, Pauper features only cards printed at a common rarity. And so if Deathspark were an uncommon or a rare, as you say, completely forbidden from play in this tournament.
Power level banned.
That's very, very clearly.
Very clearly too powerful for this effect.
Now why is it that Stormbound Geist is so good against this mono black?
So Stormbound Geist, the big thing about it is that it's got Undying. It's a 2/2 flyer with Undying, and so when it dies, it comes back as a 3/3. And one of the other things that it does when your opponent kills it, you get an extra 1. One of the main ways that mono black control kills creatures, in addition to Tendrils of Corruption and Quambodge Witches, is they have a lot of sacrifice effects.
Sure.
Sacrifice effects are very bad versus you getting to choose which creature you want to die and then picking a creature that you want to die.
Correct. We see 3 guess verdict out of the mono black deck here. Guess verdict, target a player. I got distracted. A player just asked a flanking stack. That's
It's a classic Pauper question.
truly it's so. I wonder if there's a Sidewinder Sliver on the battlefield.
Oof,
In
multiple Sidewinder slivers.
Oh, Lord of mercy. In any case, guess verdict and Chandler's Edict both cause the controlling player to sacrifice a creature instead of destroying a target.
So I'm just looking at Sam Nelson's deck list, and the event name he has for this is Rags to Riches 3, The Secret of the Ooze.
That's way better than what we have.
Honestly, yeah. I'm even okay that it's Rags to Riches and the number 2, even though this isn't the second one, because
right.
it just adds the juxtaposition. I'd like if it was a Rags to Riches,
Ooh,
then it'd be
that'd
like 1, 2, 3,
and 3.
bam, get him.
No, I would like that a lot as well. Going back to Carl's sideboard, we see 3 Duress and 3 Choking Sands. No, I'm not making this mistake again. Choking Sands is good against non-basic lands.
Which one does it? Which one is it?
So if it's destroy target non-swamp land, if it's non-basic, deals 2 damage to the controller.
Yes, that is correct.
I fist pump.
The other one that I cannot remember the name of right now has Threshold and gives all creatures -1/-1.
That's Rancid Earth.
Rancid.
I have deals of damage. I have cast that card so many times. Well, we're glad that you also enjoy Pauper. About a month ago, we weren't excited about casting against GP Bologna,
Yeah.
which is taking place in Bologna, I believe.
Yes. And then the Fire Nation attacked. And Modern is not necessarily in the greatest of places right now. And
true.
so for any of you guys just tuning in from the Modern GP coverage and decided to come here instead, we are playing Pauper here in Seattle, Washington at Card Kingdom.
That's right.
And this is the 3rd time we've run one of these Pauper events, and the 3rd time it is capped at 72 people, which is a pretty big number.
Yeah, we've got a ton of people here. Had to turn down. It's a shame we had to turn down people for space reasons.
Absolutely.
So as the players go into the second game, what do you think Sam is looking for in his opening hand?
So Sam really wants cantrips. And whenever you play blue decks, one of the big things you get is cantrips, which the reason why cantrips are so important in this format is they let you dig into the cards that you really need. And you don't really know what you're going to need when the game starts. You have to look at your hand, see what your opponent's doing, figure out how your hand interacts with theirs, and find which pieces you're missing to be able to win the game.
Yeah, the mono blue deck less proactive, I think. So it makes sense that he wants to evaluate what his opponent is trying to do, and then reformat his hand based on the threats that Carl presents.
Absolutely. And for those in chat asking about the legality of the format, it is similar to Magic Online, but not quite. The legality is any card that has ever been printed at common on Magic Online or paper is the big difference. Magic Online exclusively looks at cards that have been printed at common, so they miss out on a few cards in some of the older sets. However, there is also a much more aggressive ban list, as cards like Sinkhole and Hymn to Torok are now legal, where they wouldn't be legal on Magic Online.
That's right. You can find the full list at Card Kingdom.
The Facebook page,
also the Facebook group.
Facebook group has it. I'm not sure exactly how to find that. Sam's going to start out with a preordain here. Going to elect to double top. It's always something scary whenever I see somebody do that because it means that they were missing something and they found it. I like when people double bottom off their preordains. We're going to see a Relic of Progenitus to start out. And I'm a little confused by this because I feel like Sam's deck has a little bit more of graveyard interaction than Carl's.
We saw this Think Twice, and I can't imagine a card in the mono black deck that really cares about cards in the graveyard. Well, we see a pair of Unearth in Carl's main deck, as well as the pair of Chainer's Edict. Chainer's Edict has flashback, making
Always a
it
good effect.
in 7 mana. It's completely achievable facing off this mono blue control deck.
Absolutely. Is there a Gurmag Angler in Carl's deck? There's got to be, right?
There sure is not.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. There are two.
There are two. Okay.
There isn't one. There are two. Carl.
So Carl, on the draw, casted a Sign in Blood, which made him draw 2 cards, go over the maximum hand size to 8 cards, and then have to discard an Owlette. Weeblay.
Weeblay. Bonjour. Sam activating his relic at sorcery speed.
Wants to get the Weeble in the graveyard, out of the graveyard.
That's the name of the animator that made the Badger.
Yeah, Weeble's stuff. That is one of Weeble's things.
Oh, very good.
I was also thinking Weevil Underwood, and I was going to try and make a joke there.
Too deep. Oh my goodness gracious. So
The
Sam,
Eldrazi are here.
here to ruin your format. Sam casts a Stormbound Geist on 3 mana, right on clock. Carl has a removal spell for it, and it exiles the target creature,
That's
making
huge.
it completely blanking Unearth. Now I feel like a complete doofus for not realizing this ahead of time.
Yeah. Complete disregard, very good at killing creatures with an Undying, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
So Sam's got a couple options here. I imagine he's going to deploy that Seagate Oracle. He could also leave up mana for, I believe that's Exclude, correct? I always get Exclude and Repulse confused because they do very similar things at the same mana cost, and they have similar arts.
And that's correct. Sam has like you said, Sam has many options here. Looks like he's going to deploy his Seagate Oracle first. This is instead of casting the Spire Golem or leaving it mana for the Exile.
I always like stalling on the Spire Golem. If you can tap out every single turn, and then you can have one of your spells costless, you're generating extra value each time you do that.
And despite having Force Smite a powerful spell in the first game, Sam declines to leave mana up. I'm not sure.
I feel like the bluff there is very valuable, especially because when you're on the play in a game with Force Spike in your deck, you just always bluff it because it makes your opponent have to play around it every single turn from there on out.
And if you leave a mana up every turn to make your opponent leave a mana up every turn, then you've just made the game go longer, and I have to assume that the mono blue control deck is going to be better as the game goes long.
Absolutely. If you're playing Compulsive Research and Spire Golem, you probably want the game to go longer.
I think you're right. Carl lands a Phyrexian Rager, falls to 17, but doesn't have a 4th land.
Yeah, he did not hit a land drop there.
We saw a Nile Spellbomb in his hand. He may look to use that next turn to replace itself, draw a new card, and have to find that 4th mana.
Yeah, neither deck really interacts with their graveyard much. So
Some slight bits where it's relevant. But
yeah, there's a couple cards that do have flashback, but they're not huge. It's not game breaking to let your opponent get extra value out of those. And so a lot of these sideboard cards, I feel, they only get brought in because they're replacing themselves. They let you dig into your deck a little bit faster.
Carl doesn't draw a 4th land, but does have both the Chittering Rats and a Combat Retros to deploy here. After seeing Sam tap out last turn, I wouldn't be afraid to tap out myself, but instead Carl elects to look a little deeper for his 4th land.
Yeah, I think not only does this play around Force Spike, but it also gives him an opportunity to find a 4th land. And it looks like he whiffed, which is too bad. He's going to attack with the Rager here, and I think Sam's just going to double block.
It's very aggressive.
It certainly feels pretty good to double block there. Carl doesn't really have anything in his hand he can do to make this become a trick. He really needs like a giant growth or something like that.
Something like a Funeral Charm would do it.
Oh yeah,
Or a
plus
Midnight
two,
Charm.
minus one. Oh, he did hit a land, and he's going to go ahead and
Disfigure. Very nice.
Okay. So it looks like Sam just chump blocked. He did not elect to double block.
Well, that's right. At the risk of losing both of his creatures, if Carl had,
Two disfigures.
I suppose, well, even with just one. Yeah, Sam finds his 5th land here, means he's going to be able to deploy, he's going to get to do all the following. Cast Spire Golem, leave exclude mana up, and activate his relic at end step.
Yeah. A lot of value, a lot of cards to draw this turn.
Or could just elect to tap out for Muldrifter, always a powerful play, especially if your opponent is behind on resources.
You're also a Vulcanal Drifter, but I feel like the card in play is worth quite a bit. It's certainly worth more than 2 mana. And so when you look at it that way, I believe the correct play is to go ahead and deploy the Spire Golem and pass the turn with 4 mana.
That's true, and that's a lot. Carl's got to feel a lot worse about casting a creature into 4 untapped islands.
Yes. And it's really too bad because Sam just, I think, locked out the tempo game. He's managed to deploy a pretty threatening board presence with that 2/4 flyer for 1 mana.
And now Carl's got to find a way to deal 4 damage to a flying creature. Not trivial.
Certainly non-zero. We're going to see a Chittering Rats. I'm a huge fan of this creature. So when it comes into play, you got to your opponent puts 1 card from the top of their library, 1 card from their hand on top of their library. However, it will be excluded, which is even worse, as Sam gets to draw a card instead of lose a card to the top of his library.
Lose a card and a draw step. Here comes that Nile Spellbomb. Carl again electing to leave 1 mana up, playing around a theoretical Force Spike.
Yeah.
Could instead have cast Quambud Dredges, but that is rapidly becoming one of his only ways to deal with this Spire Golem.
Yeah, that's a quarter of Spire Golem's health bar, so he only needs 3 more.
Yeah. Ooh, and a second Spire Golem might be enough to put Sam in command and control of this game.
Let's see what Sam elects to do here. He does have double counterspell, so he does have a lot of things he can do with his mana. He finds another Spire Golem, which I imagine he'll be deploying either this turn or next turn. Looks like he's going to start off with a Compulsive Research. He really wants to find some lands here, preferably 2, which he just hit, as now he's able to discard 1, and then be able to play a land for the turn, play that Spire Golem for 3.
With exclude mana behind it.
And I feel like Sam's going to be able to close this game out very, very soon from here on out. He has enough card draw and enough counterspells that he'll be able to stop Carl from being able to do something for enough turns to end the game.
That's right.
As Carl he's only got 4 lands in play.
Now he's drawn his 5th.
Oh, he did?
That's right.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. He does have 5 in play.
Now Carl looking for, well, Weeblood would certainly deal elegantly with any of these Spire Golems. A Pestilence off the top would be pretty good as well.
Absolutely. Instead, he finds a creature. The problem is Carl has to know that the next probably 2, maybe 3 cards he casts are just not going to resolve.
That's right.
And so he's got to figure out how to cast enough spells to be able to put cards in play to not die to the clock that Sam is providing.
Definitely. Actually, we see Carl just flipped through his hand here. We saw a Gurmag Angler in it.
Big scary monster. Not easy to cast when your opponent has a Relic of Regeneratus, though.
Certainly not. And Sam elects to let a Phyrexian Rager resolve.
He says, that doesn't have flying, you can't really interact with my Spire Golems, I'll just ignore that.
It does draw a card and costs Carl 1 life point. Still don't think that's, I don't think that's very relevant. I actually might have blown the exclude there.
I think it's worth it. I think you just want to counter everything your opponent does at this point. You have the game locked up, and so letting him do things could be dangerous.
Letting him replace cards, not a good deal.
Absolutely. Sam's going to draw. It's another Seagate Oracle.
Another way to protect his Spire Golems from errant edict effects.
Absolutely.
You think he'll cast? Yeah, here comes a pre-combat Muldrifter.
Hard cast, draw 2.
I like it.
Bam bam. Finds himself another land and a snap.
A snap off the top is a very nice draw here.
Changes the tempo. I feel like Sam has been in the lead for quite a while, and that pretty much locks the game up.
Right.
There's a 2-turn clock being provided to Carl. Carl does have the 3rd game that he will hopefully be able to come back from.
That's true. Cycling Baronmore in the end step. See what Carl finds for his turn.
Finds a Swamp and another Kumbaj, which is that's not going to do it.
That's 3 in his hand.
Yeah. He
and
can almost kill a Spire Golem
very
and
close.
himself.
If he casts the Sign of Blood, it's very risky. But if he
I
doesn't,
think he needs a Tendrils of Corruption. He needs to find a Tendrils of Corruption now. Instead, Chittering Rats is going to be the play. And I actually kind of like this because it puts Sam in an awkward spot if Sam thinks that Carl is holding a Tendrils of Corruption, as he has 4 lands untapped,
yeah.
and Sam only has enough mana to play 1 spell.
And Carl now can run out and upkeep Tendrils of Corruption, should he so desire.
So we're going to see an attack here with the Phyrexian Ragers. They basically eat whatever Sam blocks with. However, Carl is in an odd life total right now. So
if he were to activate one of the combo switches, Sam can choose to go upstairs on Carl with his half of it, and then attack with 6 power worth of flying creatures.
Absolutely. And so Sam is going to elect Chump Block with a Seagate Oracle and offer, say, Carl, would you like to ping my guy and kill it, go down to 6, and die to my flyers next turn?
Carl playing heads up, doesn't walk into it, and instead casts his second and third combo switches.
A lot of Kumbaj Witches to be at 1 life.
That's true. He does have an opportunity now to draw that Tendrils of Corruption right off the top.
Absolutely.
It's going to gain him
7 life.
as much as 7. Might be enough to turn the tides.
Absolutely. It certainly will give him enough time.
A counterspell off the top for Sam means that he is pretty well protected against any shenanigans that Carl might be able to assemble.
Yeah, as a blue deck with 6 mana up on a 1-turn clock, your opponent doesn't have a lot of options.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if they need to resolve a 4-mana spell to not lose the game next turn.
Sam looks like he's going to think about casting a spell, just in case.
Looks like he's going to evoke a Muldrifter, or is he going to cast a Seagate Oracle? Okay.
I'm going to go off the ground just a little bit more.
Finds a Relic and a Muldrifter. I imagine he's going to bottom, but oh, you can't. You have to pick one.
Required. It's a sleight of hand.
By the law.
It says right on the card.
Can't break the rules of the cards. Decided to take the Muldrifter, which I don't think is the right option, just because he doesn't really have a window to play it.
Right.
I don't think it matters too much, though, at this point.
Could have cast a second Relic. Gives him an opportunity to throw it away to draw a fresh card, but he's got a counterspell, and he's got a snap, and he's got an exclude. Oh no, he does not.
No exclude, just counterspell. But he already has a Muldrifter, and he couldn't cast the first one. Oh, it looks like he's going to evoke a Muldrifter here.
Carl's sitting back, letting Sam have his fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
Finds a remove soul.
there it is.
Sam now has another counterspell, but he can only play 1 this next turn, and that's how many turns. Yeah, how many turns the rest of this game is.
Exactly.
Is Sam going to pass the turn?
Still deliberating. He is at risk of. I'm stumped. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. Corrupt is usually the card that I go to, but Corrupt doesn't really do much on this board state anyways. It does the same thing as Tendrils of Corruption.
If Carl already has a Tendrils of Corruption and draws a Duress, then Sam's in trouble.
Yes.
We know that to not be the case.
I don't know if trouble is the right word, but not winning the game next turn is the word I would use. Looks like that didn't happen. Carl's going to go ahead and pick up his cards for game 2. He was just a little bit too far behind Sam's mono blue control deck that game. We'll have to see how this board plan pans out.
That's right.
And someone in chat suggested that Carl should maybe consider boarding out some of the Kumbaj Witches.
I think it's defensible.
I think that boarding out 1 or 2 might be right. However, Kumbaj Witches is very good if you're up on board, or if the board gets to a board stall while you're up on life, because it does ping each player every single turn. And if you're playing cards like Tendrils of Corruption and Corrupt, you can gain that life back very, very easily. Grey Merchant of Asphodel as well.
That's true. I think Carl's deck functions best when it's on the aggressive plan. We saw Sam took the game long and cast 1 mana, 2/4 flyers.
That's really what you're trying to do with Spire Golem in your deck.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Given that he's trying to be aggressive, it makes sense for kind of his core game plan to be get you down about 5 life less than me, and then just like drain us both with combo witches so the game's over.
Absolutely. Cast a Grey Merchant of Asphodel, drain you for 6.
Yeah.
Attack you for 4.
Get 1 big hit in with the Gurmag Angler. Which I'm curious to know if Carl's going to board that out.
Seeing the relics makes it a little bit tough, that's for sure.
It lines up kind of awkwardly against Sam's snaps, which we know he has a full set of.
Absolutely. I think that you want to get rid of the Gurmag Anglers here just because you saw Relic of Progenitus already.
Yeah.
And if I see that, I would take that to be an opportunity to make my deck less hurt by my opponent's sideboard cards, which are the cards that he's looking for. You know, when you board in cards, you're hoping to draw them in that matchup.
That's right. Minimize the effect of Sam's.
Absolutely.
Sam's relics. I'm hoping that Carl draws a Pestilence. That card
Pestilence is very powerful. Absolutely. It can be a little tough to kind of control the board in this matchup just because Spire Golem has 4 toughness, and so if you are spamming
activations on your Pestilence.
Yeah, if you spam Pestilence for 4 to kill it, you might not have enough mana to be able to play another creature to not have it die on your end step,
Makes sense.
which is kind of what you want to do with that card. I imagine that if you're sitting there with 6 mana and a Pestilence in play, you can blow up the board and then play Kumbhaj Witches.
Sounds good.
6 mana is a little tough to get to.
That's true. It does. It again factors into Carl's one strategy Carl might take here.
It certainly is good for racing, I feel.
Absolutely.
If you're up on board with Pestilence, you can just race your opponent and you sweep not to kill the board, but to keep one of your big guys in play and
right.
just deal damage to each player with the activation.
Right.
Sulfuric Vortex them, if you will.
Exactly.
It's very cool to see how decks can use these resources that they're not really used to attacking. Like, Mono Black Control is much more of a control deck, but Carl is aware that in this matchup he is much less the control deck, and so he needs to get in the game as fast as possible and not let Sam take over.
Right.
And so these cards that usually are most effective when you're on the back foot, Tendrils of Corruption, Corrupt, Pestilence, they're very, very good at giving you tempo and attacking your opponent's resources.
Yes. Whereas something like Unearth, which lets you buy back 1-for-1 a resource that you've already expended, less
Less powerful, yeah.
correct.
Unearth is usually just a 1 mana Phyrexian Rager. Sometimes it's a Chittering Rats.
That's a good deal, make no mistake. But if you've lost your Chittering Rats already, ooh, Carl taking the jacket off.
Yeah, it's getting toasty.
Things are heating up.
The red sleeves that Sam's bringing are just raising the average room temperature a couple degrees.
Exactly.
Certainly not one of these decks. Looks like Carl's got just enough lands to keep his hand. He's got 3. That's certainly the number I'm looking for.
And we saw Wrench Mind, probably going to lead him off. He's got
Oh,
a
yeah.
dead weight to effectively murder a Spire Golem.
Sam's going to start out with a Preordain here. Going to find a Preordain and a Remove Soul.
Taps that on turn 1 again, means Carl's going to get to resolve one of his annoying spells.
I think it's much more reasonable to do that this turn. I don't think Sam just drew off that. Oh, yeah, he did. Never mind. We're going to see a Wrench Mind here. There is no Relic of Progenitus in Sam's hand, so this is going to be a 2-for-1.
Absolutely.
This is the fair and balanced version of Hymn to Torok. 2 mana, target opponent either discards an artifact or 2 cards.
Another reason for Sam to bring in those Relic of Progenitus gets 2 reasonable ways to deal with things in the Mono Black deck is either
Yeah,
just trying to
get to 1-for-1 in a way that it doesn't necessarily get to any other way. Sam's going to go ahead and draw. Draws the Remove Soul, so he did draw the Preordain earlier.
discards the 4th land out of his hand. Means that he's going to be able to deploy a bunch of resources.
Unearth
Now-
is the draw.
There it is. No, that's. Oh, no, I thought that was Innocent Blood. No, you're right.
We're going to see a Chittering Rats. It's going to put 1 card back on top of Sam's library unless he elects to Remove Soul it. And you know what? If he Remove Souls it, Carl's just going to untap and then play Unearth next turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite powerful.
Going to be very, very good here.
My favorite Unearth combo is Snapcaster Mage. If you unearth a Snapcaster Mage, you can then target this Unearth and unearth something else right after.
That's a lot of money.
I was doing that for a little bit in Legacy.
Ooh, Sam places 3rd land, has Exclude in his hand, means he's going to be able to counter a creature spell that Carl casts. But instead, tries to find something to stem the bleeding.
Yeah, finds 2 lands. Going to go ahead and put those on the bottom.
Ooh, Muldrifter's a
Draw
good card.
Muldrifter, yeah, certainly powerful. And Sam played his land for the turn, so he's just going to go ahead and pass here with 2 mana up.
Carl, again, stops at 3 mana. We'll see how this Unearth looks.
Yeah, he kept a 3-lander here. Sam's going to go in the tank here. It looks like he's got a counterspell. He's thinking about counterspelling this. However, Carl has not played a land yet and has 2 mana, potentially 3 mana. Another Chittering Rats up from the wings would be very powerful here. Oh, looks like it happened.
There it is.
So Sam's going to go ahead and put 1 card back and go ahead and draw it as Carl's just going to pass the turn.
Carl does have a pair of Complete Disregard. Means that any creature that Sam plays got a big target on its head,
Yes.
likely to find its way into the exile zone very quickly.
Absolutely. Carl draws another Grey Merchant, which is not really the card you're looking for when you have 3 lands in
A
play.
little unfortunate. See if Sam finds a 5th land. He does
Finds a Compulsive Research. That might find him some land. So he also has that Muldrifter he could evoke here, but I think Compulsive Research is the smarter play.
We're going to discard the Muldrifter to draw 2 cards. Might as well discard it to Compulsive Research and draw a fresh card.
Absolutely. Looks like Sam's just going to pass the turn, though. He wants to leave up Exclude mana. Carl hits his 4th land, but he doesn't really have anything to do on 4 mana. He's only got things to do on 5 mana.
That's right. He's got a bunch of removal spells for Sam's, for I believe all of Sam's creatures. Lines up very well against Spire Golem and Stormgeist.
Ponder's the draw. Sam's going to start out with a Ponder.
That's an easy cast here, I think.
Yeah, see what he can see. So which moon do you think he's going to go for here? The full moon, the waxing moon, or the empty moon?
See, I thought that was a waning moon.
Okay, maybe it's waning
so.
and waxing. I'm not sure.
I'm reading the card left to right, as you would expect from an English reader.
Okay.
Which makes me think that it's going from full to new
Okay.
through the waning process. But it's very likely it could be going the other direction.
I never really thought about it.
You think a lot about things when you're on the bus.
Yeah,
I think.
very true. I wish I thought about Ponder on the bus. Carl
Sam-
draws a Phyrexian Rager, going to attack for 2, puts him down to 14, and then put himself down to 19, hopefully, off of this Phyrexian
He's certainly
Rager.
not.
It's getting excluded.
Instead of Carl drawing a card, Sam's going to be the one to draw a card here.
Very effective.
And now Sam has so many Muldrifters.
Yeah.
It's truly an astonishing amount of
Yeah,
Muldrifters.
some Tokyo Drifter.
So here's the thing. Sam can either evoke the Muldrifter, leaving up counterspell mana, or he can elect to tap out for it, give Carl the chance to play his big boom boom.
Looks like he's going to go ahead and jam at full cost.
I like it. It gives him the opportunity to trade with the Chittering Rats. It means he gets to stop the bleeding, gets to untap and play yet another Muldrifter.
And Carl misses another land drop. Probably not happy about that.
Certainly
Finds a
not.
Phyrexian Rager. Going to go ahead and deploy that threat. Does have a Deadweight that he'll be able to cast afterwards to get rid of that Muldrifter and attack in. Draws the land off the Rager.
That's very nice.
Deadweight coming down. -2/-2 permanently on your guy until it dies. In which case, we're both going to the graveyard.
That's right.
And then attack for 2. Sam's down to 12 already. So it's getting low.
That's right. He does have... But now he starts his turn with a full grip of cards, including 2 Muldrifters. Carl's going to have to tap out to ever resolve any of his Green Merchants.
The thing is Carl has the tempo advantage right now. If Sam tries to commit to the board by casting one of those Muldrifters full value, Carl gets a window to play a Grey Merchant and just jam.
But a very fortunate draw in the form of a creature that costs 3 and stays on the board means that Sam's going to be able to block, at least interact with Carl's attack.
Absolutely. Sam's going to go ahead and play his land for the turn, cast a Preordain off that, dig a little deeper.
Stormlight Gust and Counterspell. Those cards both very good here.
Very effective.
Can't imagine him not keeping.
Yeah, I think he's going to double top. Go ahead and keep the Counterspell on top first, though. He's now got 2 Counterspells in his hand.
Yeah, this actually I think a small misstep.
I actually like this a lot because if Carl plays a land and duresses, takes a Counterspell, and then is able to jam Grey Merchant Vessel, that's really bad for Sam.
Okay. All right, that's a very good point.
We're going to see an attack here for 4. Sam's going to go ahead and chump. Well, not chump. He's going to go ahead and bounce.
Try to bounce.
We're going to see another Chittering Rats come down against Sam. Sam's in the tank about whether or not he wants to counter it. He does, which is reasonable.
Doesn't want to miss his draw step here, although he knows he's got a Muldrifter coming here.
Stormbound Geist.
I'm sorry, Stormbound
I think
Geist.
he wants to play the
Oh,
Stormbound Geist.
yeah, he
though.
definitely wants to play Stormbound. Stormbound Geist can't block either of these creatures, and
This is very true.
as it's a high flyer.
Too
And
high.
2 riches.
Too high, 2 riches.
Sam now.
2 high, 2 counters. There we go.
Sam's in a similar position as he was last turn, except this time he can full cast the Muldrifter, hope to draw a second land off of his 2 cards, and then pass with double blue open as well.
Absolutely. I mean, he has that Counterspell in hand, too, that he's able to jam. So
That's right.
certainly a valid option. I believe he's hovering over that Compulsive Research on the far right of his hand, though. Which I think he's got enough cards, and so if he plays this, he might want to discard 2 cards rather than a land, because he actually kind of wants land at a premium here. He's going to hardcast that Muldrifter. Draws 2. It's a Counterspell and a land. He's able to hit that land and another Counterspell.
That's very good. Again, passing the turn back with 2 counterspells in his
Yeah,
hand.
blue untapped is probably the thing most Magic players are aware of what it implies.
That's right.
It's only one thing.
Crowdfund's a 6 land. That's very interesting. He gets to now he has the option to cast both of his complete disregards. I imagine he's going to cast 1 here as he wants to continue attacking Sam's life total.
Absolutely. Do you think that Sam is going to counter that with Counterspell?
I do think that.
Very reasonable choice.
And then I think. Now, Carl's in the unfortunate position of having to burn his mono blue opponent out of counterspells.
It's tough. It's not easy.
Certainly not. So he looks to pass here. He doesn't want to commit resources at sorcery speed. He wants to fight mono blue at the instant speed that it's so good at.
Absolutely. Normally, blue is so powerful because it's playing a Drago strategy, and so it's able to leave up a lot of mana to stop the other player from doing what they want to do. However, if Carl plays his removal spells on Sam's end step, and
Right.
Sam elects to counter them, Carl would then be able to untap and jam that Grey Merchant, which I'm pretty sure if he resolves 2 Grey Merchants, this game's over.
I think it is numerically over as the next Grey Merchant to resolve is going to deal 5 damage.
Yes. The first one's going to deal 5, and then the second one's going to deal 7. Sam hits another land off that Muldrifter.
It means that he's got Exclude and Counterspell mana.
I'm very confused as to why Sam has his lands taking up the entire playmat and then his creatures in the red zone.
Agree with that.
We're going to see an end step, complete disregard. Sam's not going to get into a counter war over that. He's like, I do not want to tap out right now. That
Some
sounds like
might
a
say
poor
that
decision.
some might say he showed the spell complete disregard.
Completely ignored it. It's more fun, in my opinion, when you make jokes that are not actually involved in the title, but
Sorry,
a synonym of the title.
I'll keep trying.
You can do it, I believe.
Sam let the first complete disregard resolve. Carl had the opportunity here to cast another complete disregard, but might now be waiting till he has 8 mana.
Well, I think that he's not using these complete disregards really as removal spells, and more using these as, hey, do you want to tap out right now? Because I'm giving you an option to do it.
Less a threat, more of a question mark.
So you see that Stormbound Geist come down. It just represents 2 damage a turn. It does not block because it does have that high flying
That's right.
antics and shenanigans that high flyers have. And we're going to see a second Stormbound Geist. So a lot of ghosts here. Ghosts and stuff.
Guys.
Geist and stuff. We're going to see a complete disregard on the end step on one of those Stormbound Geists. And I'm actually a little surprised by this. I think I would have gone after the Muldrifter.
I think Carl might have correctly guessed that Sam really values. Oh snap!
Oh,
that's,
no.
That's a very nice one.
I guess it's pretty good that he targeted the Stormbound Geist instead of a Muldrifter.
Exactly. It's unfortunate that the snap resolved because
Grey Merchant number 3 is the draw. Odds are this is getting countered.
yeah, you got to start casting him though. Is now he's
Sam's got the double blue. Can only mean one thing.
turns out counterspell. That was a good try though. The flavor text.
Draw for the turn. It's another Stormbound Geist. I think if you're
that's all of
Sam,
them, pretty sure.
Yeah, just got 3, right? 1 in
Yeah.
the main deck, 2 in the board. Yep,
Yeah,
that's
there
all
it is.
3. Pretty powerful here. Carl's going down to 17 off this hit off 1 Stormbound Geist. Next turn he will take 6 and go down to 11 off of 3 Stormbound
I
Geists.
imagine Sam is only going to cast one of the Stormbound guys here as he
Well-
gets to leave. It doesn't. Okay, it turns the clock from. It reduces the clock by 1 full amount, but it leaves Carl the opportunity to deploy 1 spell that's almost certainly going to resolve.
Yeah, very true.
Sam, however, not afraid.
Shooting Rats is the draw. And this is really too awkward because Carl doesn't quite have enough mana to be like play a 5-drop and a 3-drop.
One more land, and he could bait out the counterspell with the Chittering Rats, but
Absolutely.
can't do that now.
I think he might just cast the Chittering Rats here, hope that Sam counters it. Oh, no, looks like he's going to jam that Grey Merchant. This is going to get counterspelled again. Is that counterspell number 3 or number 4 for this
I believe it's number 3.
game? Okay. Carl has to hope that there's none left.
And just the same, it must assume that the mono blue deck is jam-packed full of counterspells,
Absolutely. Compulsive Research, going to draw 3, finds a mana leak.
which is awkwardly relevant.
Yeah, it's another hard counter. However, if Carl draws a land, he'll be able to pay for that.
That's right. We'll have inadvertently got punished for deploying a bait spell first. This whole tap out for the next spell, and which will be countered by the mana leak.
Relic of Pretenders is coming down for Sam, and a swing for 6. And if Carl draws a Gurmag Angler here, Sam's probably going to feel a little dumb.
Yeah.
I always like when that happens, when people play Relic against me when I have a big graveyard and don't immediately blow it up and then give me a chance to untap and then jam a Gurmag Angler or a
Cast a sorcery
Tassiger. Or a Dig Through Time back when that was a thing. That was always fun.
I remember that card. That card was pretty terrible.
Yeah. I've been playing a lot of Standard recently, and that card is very good in Standard.
That's a fair point.
My skills of playing that card a lot in Legacy, where you're casting a million cantrips into it, has definitely helped me cast a lot of cards and then have exactly enough mana to cast Dig Through Time after a Counter War or something on my opponent's end step.
Fire Action Major is going to resolve for Carl, bring him down to 10 life. Finds him a Baronmore. I'm going to wait to cycle that until Sam's end step. Cast a Chittering Rats here.
Sam's in the tank. I think he's got to let this resolve.
I can't imagine caring. I don't think the next card that he draws is going to be very relevant. Although this is now the juiciest opportunity to blow the Relic
Oh yeah, to draw an extra card.
in response to the trigger.
Yeah. See what you see. Carl's gonna exile 1 card. Sam is electing not to blow it up. He's gonna check his graveyard, make sure there's no Think Twices in there. And Sam's gonna go ahead and take the world.
Nothing good there.
Get rid of the world. Draw that card he just put back with the Chittering Rats,
That's right.
and then go to his turn.
Fresh draw step. Carl now facing down 8 power in the air.
Yeah. It's a
That's
big number.
That's a lot.
We're gonna see a compulsive research here, and I'm pretty sure Sam is just looking for a Spire Golem, which he finally found. That
there
guy
it is.
costs negative a lot of mana. I believe it's -5,
-3.
-3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
For some reason I was like, yeah, he's got 10 lands, so it's -5.
Sam attacks with his Stormbound guys, elects to leave back his Muldrifter in case of emergencies. As it alone among his flying creatures can swoop down to block a creature on the ground.
Absolutely. We're gonna see an end step cycle here. Draw a card for Carl. and-
Another complete disregard, which would have been good a couple turns ago.
Yeah, he's needed that for a few turns. I think he really needed the 8th land, and then the turn he hit it, it was tapped. Draws, is that another Grey Merchant of Asphodel?
And now it's a dead weight.
Okay.
And if he is somehow miraculously able to resolve this Grey Merchant,
He might still be in this game, especially if he plays the deadweight first, as he's going to gain an extra life off that. I assume that it'll deadweight the
Spire
Spire
Golem
Golem,
makes
yes.
no sense.
We'll see it happen.
Sam guaranteed to let it resolve as losing a flyer this at a minimal cost now.
Yeah, absolutely. With Carl at 4, there's a lot of creatures that Carl needs to deal with before a removal spell is relevant.
That's true. And
He's going to kill the Bowl Drifter.
interesting. Okay.
I would have gone for the Spire Golem as it represents the same amount of damage, except it means the Grey Merchant is 1 more devotion.
That's true.
It's not going to matter, obviously, as Sam has about 1 trillion counterspells in his hand, and there's one. Carl's going to go ahead and
He was
extend
actually
the
out.
hand.
That was the last counterspell.
Yeah.
You know, any
just right now, just
any
for fun.
duress or another Grey Merchant would have done it.
Absolutely. So welcome back to the booth, guys. That was a pretty exciting round 1. We only have a few minutes left in the round.
Just about 8 minutes left.
8 minutes. Oh, sorry.
Were you not looking?
I wasn't. No, I always forget. 8 minutes left in the round. I was looking at the timer on the wall. So I do not think that we'll have enough time to get a backup match on camera for you guys. So we're going to be going down for just a little bit until we get round 2 set up, and then we will come back live with round 2 coverage right here at twitch.tv/cardkingdom. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.